Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got a mate on here. We've not just done this. Maybe we have just done this. But here we're back again, and I've got Jack Lightfoot, or Torus Energy, who is the most phenomenal artist I know and the most phenomenal mind. So let's get talking. Yeah!
Oh man, I wish I felt about myself like that.
We're back, baby. Quite literally, round two.
Round two.
We only got 5 minutes in, but it was a little bit of ticking, and I just can't live with that. I broke down the fourth wall now. Everyone knows that we're not elites.
Yeah.
We can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
We're human.
We all
God
make
damn it. Now, talking of humanity, it's been a bit weird at the minute, hasn't it?
Yeah, understatement.
Humanity, on the whole, very polarised, very up in the air. Something's up in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe not what we're told.
Yeah.
What do you think, man? How have you taken it all? How are you feeling towards it?
Well, you know, like I'll say again, because I think that it was quite well received by you before, is like there is a lot to be optimistic about. And regardless of what's going on, like I feel incredibly optimistic about what's going on right now. And, you know, like always when terrible things happen in history, like this is just an example, but let's say like when a war happens, well, on the plus side, we have like huge leaps in technology and people like unite to a common cause, and like, you know, like this, it's not like, oh, bad thing. Like we wouldn't be in the world that we were today if it wasn't for these wars and if it wasn't for these other things happening. And like, you know, there's a bigger thing at play, which isn't really concerned about our perceptions of what is good and bad. Like it's all cause and effect. And I think that, you know, a lot of people are like waking up right now to the reality that we actually live in. They're waking up to the reality of like the centralized banking system. A lot of people are getting into Bitcoin as well. A lot of people are getting into blockchain technology. A lot of people are having a lot of time to spend on their own to have a lot of introspection, and that's helping them personally develop. You know, lockdowns have forced people into that state of being, and a lot of people had time to think about what really matters to them. I do think that has kind of been weaponized against us in a way, like our empathy.
I was going to ask, where's this view emanated from, and where have you built that? Because from my social media sphere, I've started to manicure it and find what I want to see on there rather than the shower shit I was seeing before. But what's in your world at the minute? What conversations are you having? Why are you seeing this optimism? Because I like it. I just want to know where it's come from.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, with all this stuff that's going on, a lot of the people who before this, like a lot of the people who I know have like buckled and like they've really kind of like fell into the conformity. I'm not massively surprised. I don't want that to be as an insult to anybody necessarily, but it doesn't really surprise me. Whereas like I know people from all over the world, like tens of thousands of people from all over the world who I've met like through different things, and coincidentally enough, like all the people who I look up to and like respect the most, like incredible artists, like incredible thinkers, people who are like on the cutting edge, like prestigious people that I've met. Maybe not all of them, because people that I haven't personally met, but a lot of people that I know personally, they all have the same perspective about what's going on. And a lot of people who are really into like personal physical health and personal physical like workouts and stuff like that, a lot of those people can see what's going on. And is that just a coincidence? You know, people who are working on themselves and have a sense of self-determination, they can see, well, they can just think something might be a lie, and then therefore figuring out a different perspective. Because I think at this point, like if you look at history and if you look at all of the media in this country, for example, in the last like 5 years, it's like, do you really think that they don't have the capacity to like lie to you constantly through their teeth? It's like, why are you so surprised?
When you got to that point of yourself where you said, no, we're being lied to now, I've got these questions to ask, I want other people to ask these questions, it must have felt quite grounding. But at the very start, were you fearful as everyone else? Were you, I mean, where were you standing?
You know, there's the whole idea of, you know, I'll just breathe across this like sick until proven healthy. Has no scientific basis whatsoever. Like, would you be treated guilty until proven innocent? No, it's ridiculous. So we've created a paradigm where everybody is like, sick until proven healthy. And they're saying like, oh, healthy people can die of like illnesses. It's
that's a crazy good saying. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking bullshit. Mind my language, like, but seriously, it is. Dude.
You haven't just said
that. But it's the only way to really sum it up. Like, we're now supposed to believe that healthy people and people believe that. It's like, that's never been true before. So why is it suddenly true now? Like, I think that there's certain illnesses that you could get, like, parasites or something like that. That's a totally different thing. That's like, but if you're truly healthy, your body would be able to deal with that as well, like way better than somebody who's not. So I think that
does seem crazy to me.
It's very paranoid.
There's been no emphasis on how much you can do for yourself to attack any virus, any illness.
Yeah.
On, like we say, vitamin D, being healthy. I've heard the number of people that were obese and have died from coronavirus.
It's like 87%.
Is incredibly high. But the lack of information on how to make yourself healthy, how to become fit, how to fight off viruses by being your own medicine. It seems no bother towards that, and that worries me.
That was shocking in the beginning, but now it makes total sense. Like, and based on knowledge that I already had as well. Like, the thing is, that is the biggest way to see how we're all being scammed right now. And like, when I say scam, again, like, I'll say it's just a deceptive or fraudulent act. So it is very fitting to this description, like, because why you're telling people that you have to wait for an expensive treatment which is already patented by a private company who has maybe one of the most questionable criminal histories on the planet. Literally, like,
let's take
Pfizer, for example. They paid the biggest criminal fine in history, 2.8 billion, for paying off medical professionals and hiding conflicting data and pushing people into medical trials without consent.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Is that fact?
Does that sound familiar?
Is that fact?
That's a fact. That they paid it.
Where can I go for that information?
Literally,
not to do what Joe Rogan did to Alex Jones on everything he said in a podcast. He had to fact check it 10 times through, which is kind of healthy in being, but you can't have a very good conversation if everything you say is like, bring it up.
I mean, I think it's kind of a specific situation because Alex Jones just tends to just be like, oh, they're turning the frogs gay. And everybody's like, what, bro? What are you chatting about? Like, everybody remembers that thing as like, him just saying like they're turning the frogs gay, right? So then they will actually like go and research what he's saying. I think the drug is called azetitine or something like that. It's something like that.
Changes their gender.
And it actually is, well, frogs can change their gender automatically anyway.
Wow. Okay.
Because if they're in a single-sex environment, they can change their gender.
This is why I've got you on the bus. That's the exact reason.
So basically, there's this drug that was making its way into the water supply, and it was like changing it was kind of confusing or changing something genetically in these frogs that they were all basically changing to the same gender, and then they were like dying out. And it's like, he's there like saying, they're turning the frogs gay. And everybody's like, you're crazy, bro. And it's like, no, what he's saying is true. And I think that's why it's a lot of people would fact checking everything that he was saying. It's more to like say, well, this is actually true. Like, completely. It's not just him saying crazy stuff.
I just meant on the actual show.
It
was very jarring.
Totally.
Because he could say some
cutting him off, didn't he?
Great rants, and he's like, shut up, and we need to check this out. And I get why to its extent, but it struggles for conversational. But in what you were saying there, I thought, oh, that is fascinating. That's something I would like to explore. Where does one go for such information?
I mean, if you want to find out about Pfizer's criminal history, you do not have to look hard.
Very far.
Like, it's very easy to find. Like, if you literally just search Pfizer criminal history, and that is just one thing. Like, they have like hundreds of charges that they paid, that they settled in a court. Like, if I did that, I would be in prison for the rest of my life. But if they do it, they just pay a fine. And And it's like, well, is the profit that we make less? Is the profit that we make more than the fine what we might have to pay? Then it's a profitable project.
Yeah. Completely.
So,
I mean, if you want to find the root cause of the problem, you usually just tail back with the money, don't you? You go and find, where's the root? Oh, there's the money.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point now where we have like people who are turning into like dictators just through businesses that they own, like corporate dictators. And you know, that seems like a ridiculous thing for people to say. It's like, you know, whatever you think about Donald Trump, like, you know, I'm not going to get into that, but like, they banned him from like Twitter, Facebook, and everything, and then said that the friggin' people going into the Capitol building was an insurrection or whatever. It's like, they clearly have more power than allegedly the most powerful man in the world at the time. So, I mean, what is a better demonstration than that? They just silence him and he's just gone.
This is my fear and hate towards cancel culture or censorship and so on, is because it's like they either, like Google, for example, you could see it as a byproduct of they're doing it because they're trying to filter out bullshit and make sure you're safe.
Yeah.
Or, which I don't quite agree with. Or,
like Mark Zuckerberg's waking up in the morning thinking, I've got to save like some young 18-year-old boy's life like today from information.
Another part of it is, you know, they think there's so much information out there, you're not going to be able to filter it yourself, so let us help you. And there was a thing out recently, and I typed it on DuckDuckGo. Do you have DuckDuckGo as your search engine?
I only go on the internet with VPNs.
Yeah, that's it. So, you know, I typed in this article I read. It was the day after the actual vaccine or shot came out, and it just spoke about a doctor that died after taking it the next day.
Was that the one guy who was like mocking everybody for saying that they were like...
I don't think so. No, this was a person in Brazil.
Okay.
And then I just went back simply because I'd not had a debate, because again, I sit very, not on the fence, not like I don't dare conjure up my own opinion, but there is just so much information. I really do want to be careful with it and thought out, and I've got people on both sides where I'm trying to have these conversations with nuance. So I just said, I find everything you're saying fascinating, but this is an article I read the other day. I'm just going to find it. Poof, it had gone. It had gone off of the internet, and it was one of the top things. I typed on DuckDuckGo, and I was searching for it, and then I went on DuckDuckGo, and it was there, straight up. I went on a different search engine, so I thought, well, that's been taken down. I don't feel confident or comfortable in things that are being taken away from me when I want all the information, and then I'll be able to sift through it and go, well, I'm going to make an informed decision on it. But as soon as I've opened my eyes to here's some information, now it's taken from me, some more information, it gets very confusing.
Right, honestly,
then.
like,
I'm worried.
Censorship is burning books faster than we're writing them right now. And that's what's going on right there. Like, now we're supposed to believe that these people are doing this to protect us. They don't want us to see certain information because of what that might make us think. I mean, George Orwell, like, it's like nobody read these books. Like, what's going on? Like, it's like, okay, so the reason why this is so worrying is because most people aren't even aware of it. Like, when I start talking to, I'm trying to think of a nice word to use, like people who are mainstream people, like when I say to them just like, yo, you're not even aware of the censorship, like they're just removing things offline, and then they're just like, oh well, that's like, I didn't hear anything about that, but it's probably just dangerous misinformation. So this is a word that we keep hearing all the time now. Like, you know, I was talking to you earlier about changing language. It's like dangerous misinformation. It's like, it's to misinform you, and it's dangerous.
And it is, it's like in echo chambers of rhetoric that they can all give each other. If you are on an opposing team or you think something other, they've equipped each other with tools of, if somebody says this,
just label them this.
You can label this. And it goes, guys, isn't there a lot of conversational points to be had out of this one thing? Can we not go on exploration together? Can we not go on vehement ideas and studies and go for this side of the thinking and this side, not, you're just a COVID denier, and that's your label now. That's where you belong. And if you say anything against masks, it doesn't matter if a scientist that you've seen said it or a doctor or whoever, they've got a label to call you, so you're out of the conversation then. I find that very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, people think that it's just some like crazy young guys in their early 20s just like thinking of these crazy ideas, like stirring crazy inside their own house. It's like some of the most prestigious scientists in the world, like there's this, I forget his name exactly, but he created the Great Barrington Declaration, which he is the most cited living scientist on the planet. And he's Swedish. I can't remember his name, but he's Swedish. He's like taught in Cambridge. He's taught in like Harvard. He's really, really high up. And the government was allegedly seeking his advice personally on what to do with this whole COVID situation. And he made the Great Barrington Declaration, which was signed out by over 100,000 medical professionals and was put forward to the government to say, lockdowns aren't going to work, the masks aren't going to work, giving people a vaccine in the height of a pandemic would be horrendous to do, and we can't do this thing. Completely ignored. Anybody that said anything about it is a conspiracy theorist. It's like, this is literally like one of the most respected living doctors. You know, you've got people like Dolores Carhill, is from Ireland, actually a vaccine manufacturer, like highly prestigious. They can't fact check her because she's the authority on this stuff. Mike Yoden, ex-vice president of Pfizer, comes out, blows the whistle, respiratory scientist for like 35 years, comes out, says like, what they're saying to you is false. And this guy is somebody who would never want his name to be put out there about anything. Like he's clearly like a family guy, and he's in a situation where he feels like he's compelled to speak out about what's going on. That's just to name a few, like Geert Vanden Bosch, he worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He was a consultant from like Pfizer and Moderna and all of these massive pharmaceutical companies. And he came forward and was saying like, what we're doing right now is horrendous insanity which isn't based in science.
I've heard it in podcasts, and again, I'm not one to just lap up anything anyone says to me, so I'll go and just check out the accolades and what they've done with their life. And as soon as it goes, went to this prestigious university, came out with a PhD, went on and did a master's, came through here, has worked in this field of interest of contagious viruses and disease for 30 odd years, I'll listen in then. I'll go back in, clock in and go, okay, look, what's he got to say? And when the podcasts that have been, the way we're treating this, the way we're acting isn't helpful, it isn't going to deter this virus from coexisting and so on. I think, right, okay, we need to bring conversation alight. And that's what I really applaud on you and what you're doing. You're putting forward questions constantly, and you're not just saying to people, believe what I'm saying to you now. You're saying, here's somewhere you can go, here's another thing I've looked at, here, and giving people information to go down for their own looking. And I think that's vital. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, don't just take anything that I say at face value. Like, go and look it up yourself. Like, I would say that this year, because of the amount of like conflict that came towards me in the beginning, it's really made me super sharp about what I think and what I say and where I get my sources from. You know, apart from the occasional meme, which is just like,
you need a meme in your life, lighten the load. Just for a little bit of humour in the midst of the madness.
So, you know, let's take like Cambridge Analytica, for example. Like that's analysing like search results to get like a gauge on the public consciousness and then changing search results in order to affect public consciousness. And the guy came out and blew the whistle on this like 3 years ago, and
seriously,
and nobody's talking about that now. Like, but if you go and search these things on Google, you'll be like, asymptomatic transmission, is that a thing? Like, you go search that on Google, you'll get like 10 fact check, PolitiFact, Reuters, Snopes articles just saying like, there's actually no scientific evidence that asymptomatic spread isn't a thing. But then if you go to like the Lancet and the British Medical Journal and like PubMed and the NIH and stuff, and you look at their peer reviews of study that proves that asymptomatic transmission is, if anything, so rare that it's not even considerable as a factor. And then we're being told, like, that's what this whole paranoia is built upon.
Why do you think
built upon.
They're creating that? Why are they bringing this misinformation to be?
Because this isn't about a virus. And I think that anybody that hasn't figured that out by this point might
struggle.
They're gonna struggle with the future. Like, people think that this is crazy talk, but like there is an agenda happening right now, and you know, I have no hesitation in saying that whatsoever. Like, this is if you can't figure this stuff out, you're going to have a hell of a bumpy ride for the next 9 years. I'm telling you now, like, because we're talking about the restructuring of society. And that's what this is all about. You know, there's probably other things at play, but I think let's just like kind of wind back a little bit, because, you know, I don't want to make statements that are going to just be outlandish to people, because everything that I'm saying I can back up. Yeah. And there's nothing. I'm not going to extrapolate. I might extrapolate for my own entertainment purposes, or just like a private conversation. Just like, what if this is going on? yeah. But I'm not going to like publicly state like, oh, this clearly means this. Yes, but at the same time,
I think we should do that in the podcast at some point. Though,
well, we can do that towards the end.
I want to theorise and work out where we might be going.
All right. Okay. Well, so you know, if you go to the British Medical Journal. And I can't remember the exact name of the article, but it's talking about a study that was done in Wuhan, China, right? It's one of the biggest, it's like one of the most comprehensive like viral study that's ever been conducted. And it was on like 10 million participants. Out of 10 million people that they tested for COVID and the cases that they had, they only found 300 which were asymptomatic. And now I'll get back into that in a second, because this is very, very important what I'm explaining right now. So they only found 300 that were asymptomatic. So then they did a separate study where they were analysing those 300 people and all of the people who they were coming into contact with constantly, all of their members of family. Not a single one of them had tested positive. Okay. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the virus is not infectious if you're asymptomatic. And the reason that that's so important is because that's what this whole paranoid psychosis is built upon. It's all built upon the fact of like, you can't see your loved ones, and you can't go and see like a close member of yours who's like literally dying in the hospital because you might not know you have a virus, and you might pass it on to somebody else. And like,
it's like gaslighting when you put it like that.
Yeah, completely. And
are you ill? You look a bit ill. Are you sure you're not ill? You become ill from that, don't you?
It's sick. It's sick what they're doing to people. And like, I've been, you know, called a crazy person for saying this. It's like, I'm on your side.
That's
the crazy thing about all of this.
That's what I struggle with the most in these times, because
polarized.
That polarization, but where it's all coming from is a place of love in its essence, in the warpness of it all.
I want collective evolution, bro. That's my goal.
Where you're at and why you're speaking so passionately about this is because you want to help people. Yeah. You want to bring about a change to make people look in a certain way, to go, no, don't be lied to. Think for yourself. Look at this information. Yeah. Whereas people that are on another fence are going, no, we need to protect one another. We're all going to die. That is coming from a fearful place, but in a loving aspect of that place.
It's weaponized empathy, as I call it.
Is it? You said that's like that saying.
That's just a term that I've made empathy. Up. It's like the media has taken our empathy and is using it against us. Just be like,
don't you love your granddad?
Yeah, it's guilt tripping everybody.
Close tear in his eye.
Yeah.
Withering away.
Like, you know, when you see these adverts,
I want to go see him.
It's like somebody with an oxygen mask on, and they're on bus stops, and they're saying like, how could you look them in the eyes and tell them that you didn't hand sanitize your hands? And that's dark, man.
I can tell how powerful the manipulation in people has been, because even doing this podcast now, you could be thinking, oh, what is the perception going to be behind this? How are we going to be seen in this? And even I can get that neurosis a little bit, but I want to hold a space where both sides could be on. You can speak in this way, they could speak in that way, and the conversation exists so we can bring thought together and work something out where we come together in unison, rather than just being angry at one another for being wrong or thinking wrong. And I don't want people to feel so strongly on that. I want all voices to come together. That's what we need more than ever right now, is people, no maskers or maskers, vaxxers or no vaxxers. I want them to be able to listen to one another at least and understand where they're coming from, because now it just feels so sharply that as soon as you go into outside their way of vision, outside their line of thinking, you're out, you're done with. Doesn't make any sense.
I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I have conversations with lots of people all the time at the minute, because I get like hundreds of messages, like, I can all tell, the time. Bro. Yeah. So, you know, I was speaking to this person yesterday, and they're actually a nurse, and they didn't want to get the vaccine in the beginning, and in the end, they were like, you know, my granddad basically like won't see me unless I've had it, and he's already like, you know, he's far along, like, and I really want to see him, so I made that personal sacrifice to go and see him. Like, whatever you think about that, I think that that's kind of sad, because she was like surrendering,
forced, and
she's kind of coerced, but like through empathy. And it's a really weird thing, like, but you know, she said to me, I respect what you're doing, and I respect what you're putting out there, and I think that you're perfectly within your rights to like not have it if you don't want it. I made a choice that was personally right for me, and I would die for your right to not have to have it. And I was like, that's and I just said like I'm sending you just like so much love. Like, I totally respect anybody's decisions on what to do for themselves. Like, you know, and then like on the flip side, like honestly, you know, I might advise you against injecting heroin into your eyeballs, but like, it's your choice, dude. I was going to say,
you might advise me to do it. Either way, the conversation's there, the words exist, and then I get to be my own entity on how I operate next.
It's your sovereignty, man.
Completely.
Like, and that's what it all comes down to. And like, the people who are out there just saying like, oh yeah, we're all going to like be in lockdown again because of these anti-vaxxers. And it's like, okay, explain to me the scientific thinking behind that, because there is no scientific basis to that whatsoever. And like,
back to the rhetoric.
Yeah, and the thing is like, the reason that I have so much conviction behind this is because I've been called crazy, I've been called lunatic, I've been called a murderer, everything that you can think of.
Not nice words, are they?
No, like some of the worst things that I've ever been called, I've been called in the last year and a half.
And for me to actually know you personally and know our moments together have only ever been beautiful, around kind people, giving off compassion is what you emanate. It's just so untrue. And I've seen that in people that I really care for, and even myself. You're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, now you're killing others by doing this, holding this view. I've had it outside of COVID talk, man. In talking about drugs on the podcast, or talking about substances and so on. Again, I've always said I'm not advocating anything, I'm just explaining my feelings, my experiences. This is what happened to me. And if you ever want to talk to me on this front, get in touch. I'm open for people to getting in touch, and I can go more into depths of it. But words shouldn't be cancelled. The person shouldn't be cancelled. You can have an open space of all speech to exist, and we can operate in that and trust that people are their own people.
One of my favourite quotes from the last year is like, there's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate.
Oh, dude, that's going somewhere. Say it again.
There's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate.
Oh, wow.
And it's like,
that's given me a goosebump moment. I love that.
But it's like, you know, people they just think that they have a right to never hear an opinion that's different to what they think. Which is
completely
insane. Like, I'm
so
like,
detrimental to existing.
You know, like I have a lot of people who come to me and they're just like, oh, I disagree with you, but like, I really respect your ability to speak out. And then we'll speak for a bit, and I'd be like, did you know about this? And they'll be like, no. Did you know about this? No. And there's an interesting thing, like, I don't know if you've heard of it before, called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
I've heard of it, I think on Rogan, but can you go into it?
So essentially, like, I assumed that there was a guy called Dunning-Kruger who was a psychologist who came up with this. I haven't looked into it that far, but like, it's essentially when somebody has a low comparative intelligence on things, like they know a lot of they lack variable knowledge on a topic, they perceive themselves to be a lot more intelligent than they are,
and a lot more
conviction that they think as well. Like, so just to retort that, because that could kind of slander me in my own words, but the reason that I do have so much conviction about what I'm saying is because I have spoken to a lot of people. Like, I have
gone out your way to find the information.
Yeah, and people who vehemently disagree with me as well, and then have now changed their tune and then messaging me and being like, "Oh, how did you know about all of this stuff?"
I mean,
you know,
because you've obviously really studied into this side of things, you understand this side of things, but on other belief systems that you've had before, have you been problemed with the, is it Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah.
Have you had to realign your position on beliefs before?
Yeah.
You've been stuck in that, and again, arguing against it to people.
Totally.
When you didn't know the full ins and out of it yourself.
Yeah. I find that, honestly, like, I've always been quite a, like, outspoken person. And, like, you know, you were talking about school earlier, and I was saying that, like, you know, when you have your first moment in school where you can prove for a fact that something your teacher told you is a lie.
Yeah.
And that the first time that happened to me, I was just like,
there's no greater moment, is there?
I'm supposed to take what you're saying at face value, but I know you've just lied to me. That's a bit of an eye-opening moment. And, you know, also then when you get to a certain age and you realise, you know, love your parents, whatever, but they might not know everything. And you kind of have this halo effect with your parents up to a certain point, and then you realise that they're just a person.
There's flaws within everybody.
There's conditioning. I don't really like to use the word trauma, but trauma, in a sense, like, that changes the way that you perceive reality. So, you know, you realize that people have maybe not the clearest lens that they might make out, and
beautiful way of looking at it.
Yeah, and you know, in this whole thing, I've spoken to surgeons, I've spoken to scientists, I've spoken to nurses. I went to a protest. There were a lot of very, very well-educated people at that protest. All these different kinds of people. Like, I spoke to a surgeon, and he's from America. I think he's from, like, Massachusetts. I won't use his name or whatever, but he was saying how, like, you know, oh, God, we really want this vaccine. However, there was this one guy on our ward who was essentially saying that we shouldn't be putting these elderly people on respirators because they're all dying. And everybody was saying to him, just like, what, are you crazy? Like, what, so we should just let these people die, blah, 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 blah. And then, he was very, like, sure about what he was saying. And he says, look, let's just not put these people on the respirators. And then, like, patients who they thought were, like, because they only put you on a respirator when they think that you're right at the end, and, like, there's no other option.
Yeah.
And there were people who was recovering from that point when they weren't putting them on a respirator. And then, so, you know, they're making decisions on the fly, which are determining whether people will live or die. And this guy was being called crazy for that. And, like, he was saying, like, it's interesting how we all kind of, like, turned on him, and then he turned out to be right, and, like, people weren't chasing him up. So even though
it's happened through history,
totally,
you've had whistleblowers come out and go completely against the grain, and then suddenly we go, oh, they were right.
The Earth's not flat. Kill him. This guy's crazy.
Another conspiracy theorist. Put him in the box. Put him in the box.
I love it. It's like, I've never been to space, but, you know, it's a pretty elaborate scam, bro.
I don't know why they're holding that one up so vehemently as well.
There's a lot of things to focus on, like, you know, maybe focus on those first instead of debating the shape of the Earth.
Well, how does it fit your psyche? Like, how are you coping genuinely? Because you're a human with so much that you can hold on top of you. Do you struggle when you're hitting brick walls, or you're having shit thrown at you essentially all the time?
I know when I'm out of line, and, like, I think that I know when I say something that, like, might be falsifiable in some sense, like, or when I'm going out on a limb. Like, sometimes people can't tell the difference between, like, when you're making, like, a joke and, like, you know, if I post, like, a funny meme, but it's, like, relative to what's going on, and people will just be like, oh, well, actually, and I'm just like, oh,
you've shown your true colours there. It's like, come on, dude, I couldn't summarise it in a sentence, but I thought it was funny, so have that.
Totally.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and it's like, what you're saying is really offensive to people who are wearing masks, and I'm just like, well, you projected that onto that statement. Like, so, you know, there's certain elements, like something that I got a lot of backlash for the other day.
Go on then, hit us with it.
Which is like,
I'm loving this.
Which was like, it was a meme. It's like, it was basically like, thank your straight parents for your existence, straight pride.
Okay.
And like, people were just like, oh, are you saying that like you're homophobic? And I'm like, no, like, I've read an excerpt from Mein Kampf. Am I saying that I'm friggin' a Nazi? It's just like, you're equating something to that. I'm making like a tongue-in-cheek joke about something that like is evident. Like, and then people were saying to me just like, oh, you're against like gays, and it's like, dude, you do not know me. Like, you think that I'm against gays? Like, I have so many people. I have a lot of very, very close friends who are gay, all different kinds of walks of life. I have very close friends that are transgender, and you're saying to me like, oh yeah, you're a homophobe, sexist.
Mate, you're incredibly liberal to what I know.
And and funny, the thing is like, out of all of the things that I've put out there in the last year, I got more backlash for that than anything.
Do you feel a part of you enjoy dipping your toes in the madness? You're a bit of a social experiment to some degree. Do you put stuff out there, tongue-in-cheek, antagonistic to some degree, knowing what's going to come your way and just seeing what happens?
Not really.
It feels that way.
No, I mean, like, it's funny, like, when it goes that way. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's, like, sometimes, like I said to you, like, if I go out on a limb and I say something, I wouldn't say that with a knowing that I could like back it up. So if you come to me with like your subjective arguments, and then I say to you like, yeah, but what I'm saying is a fact, though.
I just feel like you're 5 steps ahead, waiting for them to fall into the trap. It
wasn't intentionally designed to be a trap, but it's just like, when your argument's thought out and people come at you with their subjective biases and they don't expect you to have actually thought about it. It's kind of like dealing with children. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not here to just try and like insult people. But it's like,
I think it makes them question their thinking inevitably, and that's important.
And the problem is like everybody's so scared of saying something that might lose them some respect, or like they're conforming, and like if you have this like cancel culture thing coming forward, and they literally threaten you with your livelihood. Like, oh yeah, we're trying to like take away your business, and like we're gonna make sure that like nobody ever speaks to you again, and then blah blah blah. It's like,
I feel it was well conducted though, because the thing they've done is put social media into the mix, so they're giving everybody a third FBI identity. They've got a character to play out now. I was Michael Markham before, that would go to the gym, live my day out and about, but now I'm also Rhythmical Mike, and I've got to think about what this character portrays in a fake, false world. But I'm gaining views, and I'm gaining followers and likes, so I've got to then conduct an image to people, like the halo effect you were saying, of what do they want to see, what do they want portrayed. Oh, if I put this up though, am I going to lose respect in this way? So I feel it's been very cleverly conducted and manufactured over a long period of time, built everyone to a certain stage where they really do give a fuck now what people think and how they're perceived. So they've got to constantly get involved with the rhetoric, get involved with the ways of saying and ways of being, because they're going to be cast out, isolated if you're not involved in it. And that's where this sort of cancel culture, angry, hate-filled, be on our teams. It's teams a lot of the time. It seems to stem from. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, like, we can go back to that what I was talking about, Yuri Bezmenov, like just before the thing. Like the same guy, Mycotonics, Luke Sumter, who sent me, like, as we were talking about earlier. I'm
going to be checking him later. I'm looking forward to that.
He also sent me this interview. It's 1984. Is it 1984 or 1987, 1982, something like that, interview with Yuri Bezmenov, KGB Defector, and like, like what I said to you about the equality, and he was just saying like, we introduced the equality concept into the public eye in America because it is a way of creating communism, because they will never be equal, and he's like saying how he calls them useful idiots. He's like these these Marxist indoctrinated people, they are the useful idiots. They will bring in the communist state, and then when they have the gulags, they will be lined up and shot.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's basically saying how like these people aren't useful in any other way than to bring in the neo-Marxism, and they were
Useful idiots.
Yeah. They were subjected to very subtle indoctrination, like through the American school system,
Right.
that was basically introduced via the KGB, and the same guy is saying like the people think the KGB is there to blow up bridges. This is movie things. This is a movie thing. Actually, the main projects is giving disinformation and subverting people ideologically.
You could get a film role doing that, dude. I'm so in.
And the thing is like people aren't aware of this stuff because they think that when they turn on the television, what they're telling you is the way that it is. And there's no agenda at play, and there's no aim to get you thinking a certain way. It's like, ignorance is bliss, but like ignorance is the intention. Like if you actually were aware of everything, you would find it incredibly uncomfortable at first. And I think that that's a lot of what is going on with me, because I've got to a point where I can speak to somebody who thinks that I'm the worst person ever, and I'll send them a study that proves what I'm saying, and they just bypass it because the acknowledgement of realizing that the world is not the way that they thought it was is so huge. It's like essentially I'm putting people in a situation where if they deny that there's any logic to what I'm saying, then it's very easy for them to just go back into the blue pill, sleep state, and just accept whatever they want to believe. Whereas, like, if they realize that there are forces at play, that there are lies being propagated, that there is an agenda to make you think a certain way, the initial thought is like, I'm under threat, like, I'm living in a dangerous world, and it's very uncomfortable. So what you're asking people to do is quite a lot, really, but at the same time, like, it's never been more important to make that acknowledgement than now.
What gives you so much thirst and passion to open people's eyes and make them think in a way?
Well, this is. I'm glad you brought this question up, actually, because I think a lot of people, even people close to me, I'm still waiting for their apology.
I love you, man.
I'm still waiting for their apology. It might be
probably in the post, dude.
Yeah, it got caught in the
shot that.
Yeah, it got caught up in the customs or something.
Going to whose house now?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, the reason that I have so much passion for this thing is because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, because a conspiracy exists. You've been
put in a box by some people.
Yeah, I've been put in a box, right? For something to be a theory, you have to be able to prove that I have no evidence. And then I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a it's fucking obvious theorist.
I'll give you that.
And it's the people who are making the theories now are being like, all these people, they're like working together to basically like disinform the public, and they're all just like random people who are basically trying to make sure that people die because they won't have the you're the crazy person because you're extrapolating this crazy
I don't understand why it has
to
to always be dismissed and debunked into conspiracy, because throughout all evolution, all history, we have conspired.
Yeah.
We know we have conspired and they've come out to be truths.
Yeah.
Some things have been true, so they've been put in a box
Massively.
of this conspiracy theory box.
Yeah.
And then every time we go, oh, but that one's fine, so we could just plunk that out, throw that out, but don't forget the box exists though, and keep all the others in there.
Yeah.
I feel after we keep drawing them out like straws, we go, right, should we just take this box, empty it all, and start, the flat earth, we've got enough information out there and general consensus that the earth is round, let's go with it, boom, that, and then just keep playing with them instead of just having to, again, like we keep saying in this podcast, put label in, be able to dismiss and just put you back in your position. I really don't understand why there's so much desperation and need to do that to people.
I mean,
It's probably fear again. It must be fear.
I mean, I find it really hard to talk about this without being very insulting
Horrible.
to people. Like, I used to think that 90% of people were pretty stupid, and now I know for a fact. You know,
You're
like,
a madman.
Yeah, you're crazy, bro.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the
Okay.
beginning, like I was saying to people, there's all these studies being conducted in Switzerland that are proving that ivermectin and quinine derivative drugs are like the most effective way to treat a respiratory virus. And then, you know, what they were finding in certain places that like 93 to 97% of all the people who were dying from COVID were vitamin D deficient. So this is a thing that isn't really talked about. Why is nobody talking about how the vitamin D is one of the most essential parts of your immune system, or fueling your immune system? Why are people not being told that, like, being obese or really unhealthy, eating bad foods is the...
What is that statistic for obese people with coronavirus?
Oh,
it's
it was
ridiculously
ridiculous.
high.
It was like late 80s, late 80% or something like
wouldn't
that.
it be great to turn on BBC News and just hear
Drink some water, go for a jog.
the health professional just saying, listen, your immune systems need to be as strong as they can possibly be. Here's a list of ways of doing that. Go.
Yeah,
Be a great start, wouldn't it?
Even-
Not hide inside, eat bad food, watch TV and stay in the dark.
Yeah, and
which
then-
is basically all the things that are going to kill you, essentially. I'm with that
Oh my
every
God.
sense of it. That's not conspiracy.
That's
at
not a
all.
conspiracy.
That's you're killing your body. You're letting your body become weak. And if you get any virus of any sort, you're going to have a much harder time fighting that off.
Yeah.
That's a truth, surely.
It's like, you know, my friend actually said, like, self-improvement is now a right-wing ideology.
Are you Hitler?
Yeah. What, you go for jogs? Like, what are you, a Nazi?
You're trying to kill my grandman?
You don't accept yourself for the way you are? Does that mean you don't accept other people?
Yeah.
Oh, God, bro.
Dude,
like, it's sickness.
The way
It's a
you
mind
think
sickness.
is hilarious.
Yeah, it's... I honestly, like, I have a lot more conviction about what I'm not even going to say believe, because I know this to be true. Like, I can demonstrate, I can prove what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
not like nothing I'm saying is ridiculous. That's what people need to get into their heads. Like, you have been subject to about, you know, well, our society has been subject to about 100 years of Edward Benet's social engineering. Joseph Goebbels' mentality towards creating groupthink is still alive and kicking, and like that's what it is. It's literally like, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. You know, and like, I actually can't remember who that quote is from, but
Stunningly good.
yeah.
though.
So if you stand
Taking
for
that
nothing,
on
you'll
too.
fall for anything. And like, if people are just in a state where they're apathetic, they've got nothing to look forward to, which is what this lockdown has done that to a lot of people. You start to become susceptible to anything that they want you to believe. You know, like, what happened to realizing that there's propaganda? Like, why does everybody suddenly think that propaganda doesn't exist, and that what the BBC's saying is truth?
I mean, just turn on the TV and watch a few adverts for a
Yeah.
few times and go, oh, this is... And again, everyone went mad when it's a cool following. Like, do you watch The Social Dilemma?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Incredible documentary, but a documentary where they've openly said, yes, you were involved in a huge manipulation, huge indoctrination. We wanted to see if we could get people involved in this product. Over time, you become the product. That was the idea. You fed to the algorithm. Now we know how people work. And it explained it all flat out in front of you and said, this is what we've done.
I call it FBI book.
Yeah. and people, because that becomes popularised, and people can nod to it and go, oh, right, I thought so. God damn yeah.
Yeah.
But then when it's not out in the open, when it's not been popularised, they still go, there's hesitance, and they go, no. There's not a big documentary on that yet.
Yeah.
When does that need to come out? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It just
totally.
feels it has to be the known thing before it can become accepted.
All we're finding right now is that conspiracy theories are just 10 years ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. Well,
Just 10 years later, we'll realise what was going
about
on.
Alex Jones
Yeah.
earlier, and you know, I'm not his biggest follower.
No, me neither.
And he'll admit this, some of the things he said were very wrong in the past. He said some things that were very wrong, but also he exposed some things very right that came out, like Moloch, who I learnt about.
Yeah, the owl god.
Yeah, the owl god.
And Bilderbergs.
But there's video evidence, and especially like Epstein Island and so on.
He was talking about that
he spoke
so long ago.
10 to 15 years before it came out, about this island where they have sex with underage people and they do these ritualistic movements and so on. Everyone dismissed that. It comes out, and then we go, oh dear, because, and that's the problem, like conspiracy theories, the same with Alex Jones, because he's been wrong, he'll be more looked on for that line of thinking than when he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's the danger.
Well, I think, I actually used to think that, like, Alex Jones was kind of like, how to describe it? Like, I used to think what was happening, because he always talks about him getting information from somebody who's high up in the government. Have you listened to something that he said?
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So he's always just like, oh
Stop, leave me alone.
So he was talking about how, like, oh, I have this person, like, who basically gives me these tips off, right? And I was thinking, like, well, what if, right? Let's just extrapolate. Even though I said I wasn't
ready.
Gonna do it,
I'm
right?
ready for some extrapolation.
So let's just think that he is being given a little bit of truth, a little bit of falsehood, a little bit of truth, a little bit of falsehood.
Yeah.
And he's running with that and putting it out there. And the way that he does, like, very passionate, very, like, loud and intense, is just the perfect way to make all that stuff look crazy. It's the perfect way.
Completely smear a character.
They're smearing
and that's
him completely.
what they did with the term conspiracy theory.
Yes.
They threw so many into the mix that you became a fool for believing in any.
Totally. Well, let's take this for example, right? The Gulf of Tonkin incident. Do you know about this?
Again, podcast.
Yeah.
Have it in the background, looking after baby, washing the pots. Will you stop crying? There's a conspiracy being unravelled here, and I need in.
So essentially, what happened is during the Vietnam War, they said that the Chinese were making moves in, like, North Vietnam, and this is the still a little bit of the mainstream story. Like, there's always going to be variables. It happened a long time ago. There's probably different things that happen that we don't aware of. The American government had then warships posted out into, like, the Gulf of Tonkin, which is, like, the east of Vietnam, or south or southeast something. And they were saying, like, oh, we're just keeping an eye on things because we don't know what's going to happen with the communists. They're going to try and take over Vietnam and blah blah blah, right? And then they were saying that, oh, we basically had our warship, like, blown up by the Vietnamese. Therefore, that's a declaration of war. So we're going in. And all the hippies and stuff, like, all the big people at the time, nobody remembers this, but they were all saying, like, this is not real. They're making it all up to justify going to war. Like, they're going to send you there to die for this cause, which they're just making the whole thing up. And, like, everybody was calling them crazy. All the hippies were, like, trying to protest against the war, because obviously you had the psychedelic revolution going on at the same time. And then when the documents, like, 50 years later, 50, 40, 30, something like that, got declassified, they made it all up. Made it all up,
dude. I mean,
and they went to war and killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
You'll know this one as well. Do you know the one on the LSD labs with the CIA?
The MK Ultra.
Yeah, and the guy came out recently, one of the agents, with that book. And the moment the labs have been running for 50 years plus. Again, experiment on people with psychedelics and so on. And then the second that book came out, all the labs just went, just shut down. And it's like, right, it's when you've been in a conversation with somebody and then they deleted all the things they said when something comes out.
Familiar.
Yeah, I told you. But that, if you want to find the guilty party, that's all you've got to look at, isn't it? If they know they've been wrong, if they know they've done something that needs to be concealed, that's all you need to look at.
Yeah, that's why a whistleblower from the Wuhan Institute of Virology said that they were deleting all of their information, data servers. Why would they be doing that? That's very guilty.
Had you heard of that LSD experiments?
I had, yeah.
The one they were really well known for doing it on, it's that the killer in the Manson? Charles Manson. Yeah, have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Dude, that story is graphic. Again, just somebody who was a little bit different, and they were just feeding him LSD after LSD, and he'd be going in, getting arrested, and then getting released straight away. And they're like, no, he said, this is above your pay grade, let him go. And they're like, okay, he goes. And then there's like actual police officers coming out at the time saying, yeah, we were told that. He just was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And again,
perfect Smith story.
Would have been in a wonderful box of conspiratorial thinking, comes out as absolute truth. There's an author behind it. He was part of the CIA explaining everything that goes on. Yet we're still in this mindset of, yeah, but not this though. It's like, why wouldn't this be a possibility to be a thing? Do you know what I mean?
People are going to look back on what happened in the last year with such shock when they realise what's been going on. Because
when like, to extrapolate, when do you see these truths being unravelled and put in front of our faces? Because that does have to happen eventually.
So there's a German lawyer called Reiner Fuelmann, and he was responsible for basically prosecuting Deutsche Bank for exploiting the markets and all of the criminal fraud stuff that they were doing. They were considered one of the most prestigious banks in the world, and he basically prosecuted them in an international court, saying like, you're laundering money, you're frauding people, you're raising interest, all this kind of stuff to basically push people into destitution. He was the tip of the spear on that. He got that whole thing sorted out. He also then exposed Volkswagen for doing this huge massive fraud with like diesel catalytic converters and like changing all of these studies in order to like justify selling these like precious minerals to people and blah blah blah. He exposed them all on that as well. This guy is now at the tip of the spear on a class action lawsuit with some of the most prestigious scientists in the world, and he is prosecuting several different governments simultaneously with literally like 10,000 like world-class scientists behind him.
Wow.
And that commences in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September.
Wow.
September, like 11th of September or something like that.
Are you going to be keeping a very close eye on
I've been keeping my eye on him.
Happenings behind that.
Yeah, I mean...
You're in the rabbit hole, aren't you, brother?
Yeah, well, I mean... I'm just in the open and clear. Everyone else is down a rabbit hole.
I just meant the magical rabbit hole that exists, but there's so many.
People are just like, oh yeah, you can see this guy like taking evidence and documenting evidence like on live streams and stuff like that. Like this is a real thing that's happening. They're calling it the Nuremberg Trials 2.0. So the Nuremberg Trials was the conclusive trial after World War II, where they were prosecuting like Mengele and like all of these different scientists. What a lot of people don't know is like in World War II they were conducting like the most inhumane experiments on people in order to try and deeply understand like the human psychology and how they could influence it and change people and whatever.
And they explain that through popularized films to you, don't they? They feed it into the consciousness, let you know what's going on. Yeah. But there's an actualized happening in humanity.
I call that predictive programming, or like basically they're trying to whitewash stuff or like make it seem like it's just a crazy sci-fi movie. Yeah. It's not really something that's really happening. It's like, why are there so many
Hollywood.
movies?
That's Hollywood. So you've heard that somewhere. That just happens in a film somewhere.
Totally. Like I heard somebody say like this is kind of a bit of a stretch, but they were saying like, oh, Hollywood, like all of the old sages and seers, they used to use wood from the holly tree to conduct spells and to create magic, and their whole idea with magic was basically influencing the public consciousness to think certain things, therefore to make it a reality. And I was like, Hollywood, and tell, lie, vision, and you're turning into channels. You're turning into be programmed.
I absolutely love the way you think.
It makes perfect sense though. Like it's all really out in the open.
Do you get a little bit worried if you come here one day and there's a shrine of you though? Like don't let me get into that.
I got it started with the goodies, haven't I? Like...
Get a bit worried if I start seeing you as a cult leader. Slap me in the face.
I've already had my experience as a cult leader. Okay. I'm not going back there. That was a sketchy part of my life.
I tried to make one too.
I have a bit of an aversion to being put on a pedestal, and that's why I think it's helped me really keep my ego in check because of like crazy shit that happened in the past. So it's
sounds like a story and a half, though.
Yeah, it's interesting when people put you on a pedestal and like want to know your opinion on everything, and like you have like a group of people who, yeah, it fucks with your head big time.
I was listening to a good podcast recently. I think his name's Tony Adams or Adamson, but he basically has a book out called The Mind Virus. And again, I really like one of his metaphors he used on your opinions and your thoughts. Like, has them as friends in the house.
Yeah.
Allow them to come in, have them there for as long as you want them to be there. But if they start pissing up your walls, leaving shit everywhere, just taking all your food, let them go.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be so attached to them. Another guy, I think he was of Whole Foods. He was the CEO or something of Whole Foods. He was on a Rogan podcast.
He sold to Amazon, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, he had a very similar view on this of wear your opinions as clothes. Like, they're not your skin. You don't have to hold them viciously and tightly. And again, if they come outdated and you don't like the look of them anymore, they can be interchangeable and move. And that gave me a bit of a penny drop moment.
Totally.
And it's quite relaxing and releasing when you can see your opinions and views like that.
Yeah.
When I was a younger person as well, I felt that towards cult thinking and my mindset of, I'm going to save people and bring them on this mission. And every thought I've got is the truth and nothing but. And it's, it's just growing up. It's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's psychedelics at that part of your life.
Yeah, there they come.
Yeah, when everybody's going through like a huge collective evolution and like waking up to the reality of the world, and like dissolving perceptionary boundaries and perceptionary structures, and like and you're realizing new truths that you were completely blinded to before.
Well, because you've been fed a certain story and you've been told this way of being, and why can't we accept indoctrination just is, and it's lived on throughout generation after generation. We've forever been told a certain way of being, a certain story that suits your surroundings, and I fell hard to that. So when I came away from it, saw the backside of it, then it opens up all parts of thinking. And like your quote said earlier, if you've got no set belief on anything, it opens you up to belief of everything, was it?
Yeah. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah, and that's it. When you go, oh, I've been lied to, then your whole floor's been shifted.
Yeah.
You don't know where to stand, so you're grasping at things and hoping that's the truth, and that's the truth, I suppose.
The way I see it, right, and this is kind of getting into like spiritual concepts here, is that our reality is shaped by perception. Like our personal lives, personal experiences are shaped by our perception. Our group life, group perception is based by the group perception and how we perceive a certain thing to be, and when we're in company of those people. Countrywide, globe-wide, continent-wide, like as a planet, like what is our perception on this reality right now? And like, what does that say about what is really happening? Like, this things now which are like trying to poke their way through, that saying like, maybe a lot of stuff we know about history is false. Maybe a lot of things we know about these certain scientific fields are false. But you're requiring the established system, which is incredibly well funded and established, to question everything that they're built upon. So, like, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, as I call it, right, is built upon something called germ theory. Now, before germ theory, I don't know, it might have been like 1700s. We had something called miasma theory. Now, miasma was essentially every illness or sickness is caused by this poisonous mist, which is just around, just going into houses and being like breathed in by people, and that's what's making them sick. And they believed that every illness was because of the miasma. Now then,
scientific development comes along.
So then there was a guy who we've realized, I think in the end, that it was not, is it diphtheria? I don't know. There was a disease, a waterborne illness that people were getting from water, that they thought, and then this guy who was an intellectual of the time, like this could be like 1740, something like that. I could be completely wrong on that, but I think
in the
it's
dark. Don't worry, mate. I'll put it up on screen.
Yeah. You can correct me on that, like when you edit it later. So this guy found that all of these people on this one street in this city were becoming sick. And then he like was trying to find out all the variables of like what those people were specifically exposed to. And then he found that the water source was tainted. And then he found that a royal, or not a royal, like a lord, lady or something, from this one prestigious house a bit further out into the countryside, had a servant coming to that particular water well every single day to collect water because she liked the taste of that particular water. And she also fell ill. So the guy knew for a fact that there was something in that water that was making people sick, but there's no miasma. It's like inside of the water. And one thing led to another. Essentially, they realised, well, there's little like living things like inside of or like little organisms that are living in the water, and that's what's making people sick. So we're still riding on that wave. Like, we're still on germ theory,
constantly evolving our thought process through advances,
and believing that things like antibiotics, sterilization, chemotherapy is the way to respond to illnesses inside the body. Like, let's just carpet bomb the immune system and just hope that we hit the virus before we kill you. That's basically what those things are.
That's something, even as a young person, I'm pretty young, but even younger. I've always thought how mental I thought and we thought as a species in the past of something, and then lived on, and then kept making these evolutionary marker points where we go, oh, how stupid was that in the past? And we keep living on from that. And then are we stupid enough to think that we get to a definitive moment where we go, oh, we've got it all now, we've got it all? Because even on a soul level, when you think you know it all, and then you get a big ego check and you go, oh, silly me,
what's the next 100 years of truth?
Learning. That's why I really hate people speaking in absolutes all the time on everything, because I go, you know, you're gonna look back in 5, 10, 20, 40 years time and go, how crazy was that line of thinking? And it just, the way you speak, very research but also rational minded, and you've done your research towards it, but everything else seems to be very, I'm not going to just conclude here because I don't have all this information. I've not been down this path yet. I want to find out more. I'm confused to why people are willing and wanting to sit in a comfortable position when I feel deep down know something's not right.
I mean, I can kind of answer that in some way.
Don't be mean again.
Yeah, I'll try. Okay, so the thing is like, you have to have the time or the energy, the desire to want to learn about something. And if that isn't there, you're not going to look into it. Like, if somebody tells you like, oh, this is the way that things are, and you don't have any comparable data on that, you're just going to take it for a fact, or at least it's going to be the only thing that is a variable in that specific topic that's in your brain. So, you know, if I said to you like, oh right, that flower outside there is like really good for like gallbladder illnesses, and you'll be like, seems reasonable.
I'll go and eat
it. But if you knew that, like, well, actually, I know what that plant is, and I've read this study that says that it could be like poisonous. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're not going to set that for
completely.
fact. And that's literally all it comes down to. Like, you know, a lot of people don't have the time or energy to think about these things. I'm in a fortunate situation where, like, I've had a lot of success with like what I do, and I have a great,
very deserved success, may I say?
Oh, thanks,
very deserved.
I have a great family. I have a great partner. We all have like a sense of like unity, like a vision of like how things could be better in this world, you know, and that brings us all together. Especially this whole thing, like, it's really brought my family like super close together, and because I haven't been around that much as well, like I've been around them a lot, so, you know, having the ability to make money from whatever you do, pursue anything that you have interest in because of all that free time and energy, and not having to worry about like, oh, like I need to like pay off this car, or like pay. It's like I never borrow money, I never lend money. I'm never in debt to anybody. I am constantly like making sure that my to-do list is as short as it can possibly be, and that gives me a lot of free time, like mental free space to like look into these things, so that when it does make you a bit like ADHD, because your attention can be like, I just read about that for like 2 hours. What's next? Like, do you know what I mean?
Podcast. I bet you're sort of multitasking doing it, aren't you?
I love audiobooks. Like, audiobooks is the one, because like all of these books which I wanted to read for years and never had the time, like now I can read them while I'm doing work.
I was going to say, any people listening to this, and if they've got to this amount of time in it, they're definitely half teetering on or full acceptance.
Like hour and 20 hour and 20 minutes.
For those people, what would you say information by, like you say you love audiobooks and podcasts and documentaries, any great things where people can open up their eyes a little for the information you've got?
Just stop using Google and Facebook. And then you like,
are there any good talkers or any podcasts you can listen to where they've got this sort of conversation out there?
That's really hard to answer. Like, it depends what specific topic.
Okay.
Like you know, yeah, man, that's a hard question to
I get
answer. Like, there's a lot of places to find information, but you like I said, go back to what I was saying. Like, you had to have the interest there or the energy in the first place. Yeah. Because if you haven't got the energy and you encounter something that is contrary to what you currently believe, you might just be like, oh yeah, it's probably crazy conspiracy theories. So if you haven't got that open mind, then like, there's no saving you. I was picturing those that know there's something not right. They know something's inside of them doesn't feel it's operated on right in society, and they want to look at a different line of view to what their family might be watching, sort of constant mainstream indoctrination, mainstream thought, ideology. That I mean, I've definitely gone down, like, I like who Rogan's had on recently. I've had a few. I did like Russell Brand until you ruined him for me. No. He's you know, to be fair, right, he's the only one in the public eye that's really talking about the World Economic Forum. And that is the biggest thing that is going on right now is coming from the World Economic Forum. And these associates, like the things that have been put forward by the Johns Hopkins Institute. Like, I was telling somebody, like, a year ago, like, World Economic Forum, like, their first line of how they perceive the world in 2030 is, you will own nothing and you will be happy. How are we going to get there in 9 years?
Give it to us.
That sounds like communism. So, you know, like, it's not like these people are just a bunch of, like, geeks sat around in like a think tank. Like, this is some of the richest and most powerful people on the planet. Like Ursula Leyen, like basically the leader of the European Union.
Influential people that if they want to make a movement or make something anew, it's gonna happen.
Forcefully. And it's gonna happen forcefully, or one way or another. And you know, I would just say the first thing that you've got to do is be more careful about what information you are taking in.
I like that. Okay.
Because, like, you know, like we were saying in your kitchen, like, people think that they're not impressionable, or they think that they're beyond psychological manipulation.
I think what you said then is a really great thing to consider. Because instead of going on a rush to find out all this information and what's going off and I need to know everything right now and fill people in, it's actually sit there, be conscious of what you are taking in at the moment, and reflect with it and see if it does deep down work with you, because there's a gut feeling inside, isn't there? There's sort of an inherent understanding and know that when you're being sold a lie, when you're being spoken to in a way that's been contrived or conducted, it feels deep within you. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
I felt that. I was just doing it the other day, like the football was on. I like a bit of my football. I don't get too attached to it like I used to. But then in between, the adverts are coming on and media's coming on and I'm watching
It's hard to tell whether, like, the football's there to show you the adverts or the adverts are there to show you the football.
100%. And they're always bloody on as well. But that's
yeah.
a great way of looking at it. Sometimes I watch it on stream though, so I'm not too bad.
Yeah, that's the best. that's the best way. Like, avoid adverts at all costs.
It was just blooming England, and it was all the adverts started coming through, and I saw it in a very comical way. I was looking at it going, I used to really be in on this.
Yeah.
I was totally sold by this.
Yeah.
And now the way
We've all
I see
been there.
it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think, man, I can see why I was, I fell to this in the past, I suppose.
Yeah. There has to be several points of that in a person's life, otherwise they're not really progressing. Like, if you can't look back on an old version of yourself and be like, oh god, I could have done that very differently.
This guy, I'm sure I might do that later down this line.
I'm sure I will as well.
Yeah, I really like what you said then on the media, the constant resource that you're taking in. If you're not feeling comfortable at the moment, you're struggling to fit in the narrative, then reflect on what you are taking in is such a great piece of advice for people. Good way to start anyway.
I mean, the one thing that I can say with complete conviction is, like, turn off the BBC, stop paying your TV license. Like, these are corporations. They're not like, they're propaganda mouthpieces. Like, people need to realize that. Don't read the newspapers. Don't watch the BBC. Don't listen to these experts, like the health people. Do you know what I mean?
If you put the prefix expert behind anything, then that just gives them so much gravity to say what they want.
I mean, if you see a guy in a white lab coat, or if you're trained like a good animal, you'll immediately agree with everything that he says.
I completely agree with that way of thinking.
And, you know, because that's why I'm kind of straying away from saying, like, oh, go and look into this.
I get you.
Like, because if I was going to tell you to go anywhere, I would say go and research these scientific studies that have been done. Like, for example, the one that proves that the vaccine coming out. This is tasty, spicy shit, right? So the vaccine coming out now, they're saying that it has, like, you know, let's say take AstraZeneca. 95% efficacy, right? What that is relative risk reduction. They call it the RRR. That is relative to your likelihood of getting it anyway, which is already quite low. So it's completely skewing data in order to get the things permitted. So it's relative risk reduction. A study was just put forward in the Lancet, which is basically the gold standard of medical publishing. And when they calculated the ARR, which is absolute risk reduction, which is not relative, it's it's like complete oversight, not a single vaccine was over 2% effective.
Okay, that's spicy.
Yeah. Why is the BBC not telling you about that? You know, why are they suddenly gonna be like, oh guys, by the way, like asymptomatic spread like doesn't exist, or if it does, it's in very rare cases and like incredibly unheard of, because then everybody be like, what? So you're saying that, like, your entire credibility is in question now because everything that you've been parroting on like a friggin' Nazi propagandist for the last year is actually demonstrably false. You know, all this propaganda that you see everywhere, like 2/3 of people who have coronavirus are spreading it without knowledge. No, they're not. That's a lie. I can prove that it's a lie. And this is what we're all wearing masks for. This is what we're all sanitizing our hands for, destroying your surface microbiome.
Falling out with family members.
Falling out with friends. Falling out with friends, like
losing
at people's throat. And it's all a lie. It's all a lie. And, like, the quicker that people...
I've been demonetized.
Sorry. You know,
I knew the moment I met you, you'd be the falling of me. You'd collapse all rhythmically.
Oh my god, you know, like, I'm not saying that there's not a thing called COVID, like that. That's ridiculous because, you know, something's going on.
Illnesses and diseases and viruses have lived for a long, long time.
I
all
think
species of animal.
When I was talking about germ theory earlier, what I was going to go on to as a segue is this thing emerging now called terrain theory. And I think that this could be the next perception of how the body works and could be the reason as to why our medical industry is the most developed and our pharmaceutical industry is the most developed and funded that it's ever been, yet we have more sick and dying people than we've ever had. How does that make sense?
I mean, it's not a great equation.
We have more obesity in this country than we've ever had before. We have more cardiovascular illnesses. We have more cancer. We have all these different things we've never had as much of as we have now. But we have the most scientifically advanced, and pharmaceutical industry is most scientifically advanced.
I mean, that's the thing with these sort of conversations as well. It's a magnitude of reasons and rations for it, isn't it?
It's like world collapsing. It's huge. And terrain theory presents the idea that our body is filled with viruses. Our body is filled with microorganisms.
This is on Simpsons.
Yeah. So we have bacteria, we have lichen, we have fungi, we have viruses, parasites, all inside of us, which are interacting with our overall microbiome. A healthy body is always able to bring a microbiome into equilibrium. All illness is caused by inflammation or acidic elements of the body. Like certain parts of the body become acidic, and that is basically causes inflammation, and then that progresses into like mutated cells and all different kinds of other things, right? But it all starts at the cause of like inflammation. Like, there's probably things I don't know about this, but like as a basis theory, like it makes so much more sense than germ theory. Let's see what happens. Like I would like to think that this would come into the public consciousness at some point, and more people would look into this, because really what we're seeing is that like everything inside and outside of us, everything surface is full of things that could kill us or make us sick. We're living in this, like, if you believe that wholeheartedly, like you're living in a constant like amygdala fight or flight fear state, as opposed to being like, our bodies are filled with this stuff, it's everywhere, it's all over the surfaces, everything that we touch. And actually by covering our hands in harmful chemicals to destroy the microbiome and the bacteria on our surface of our skin, by taking antibiotics, which are basically wiping out chunks of our microbiome. I mean, chemotherapy is just, it's got to be the biggest crime ever conducted. Like,
so, and to theorize, but do you think that's a byproduct of trying something and not knowing the implication behind it, or would you say the adverse of it's being cleverly conducted and brought to
That's a great question, and I think, like, personally, I think that it was probably a perceptionary mishap in the beginning, and as are many things, and we took it as true, and we built this entire industry upon that theory, because we don't really consider the fact that when something doesn't fit in with that theory, we just like push it out until we can find some way to fit it in a later date. But how long is that going to go on for before we realise, this mountain of ignored data is getting pretty large? When are we going to address that? So, you know, I think that at this point, these people, they who, you know, head of the World Health Organization, like these people from the NIH, and they know, like, for a fact, they know that what's going on,
what the implications
are of that information as well.
And just going back to the media again as well, because I found that fascinating. I wanted to put a pointer there. But we were laughing before the podcast started about the guy in CNN,
Charlie
in America.
Chester.
Yeah, just go on to that a little bit as well, because for people, you know, the Daily Mail, BBC, whatever we're fed and force-fed into for a long period of our lives, there's somebody at the top of the tower who's just been in a smear campaign, would you say, against him, or whatever it is. But it's, again, another truth out in the open. So just talk about that a little bit.
So it's all done by a guy called James O'Keefe at Project Veritas. Now, people are just saying, like, oh, this guy's, like, right-wing disinformation. It's like, there's a video of Charlie Chester, who's a technical director of CNN, openly admitting that they're filling people's heads with fear and propaganda.
But did he get caught
So, yeah,
up because of a
right-wing
Tinder
propaganda.
date as well? Did he
Yeah.
get put on a Tinder date with somebody and then had a few bevies?
And then
he's
just spilt the
proper
beans on everything.
Peacocking after
Yeah.
one date with a girl.
Yeah.
How crazy have you got to be?
The memes that came of that were stellar.
Dude,
Like,
could you imagine like having this huge array of information that you've got to conceal against the public eye, and it takes you a couple of bevies down and a pretty girl with a cleavage out, just to let it all slide?
That was what one of the memes was. It was like Project Veritas saying just like it's a little stickman drawing, and it's Charlie Chester's face, and then it's some like girl who's attractive on the side. And it just says like attractive girl and 2 drinks down. Charlie Chester will tell you everything you want to know.
I mean, I saw that with my eyes. I really did. I watched it. I think it was on Live Leak or something like that. But I heard it on a podcast. I went to find it, and I've just listened to him spilling the beans.
Totally.
And you just think, right, okay, here's another piece of information. So I do really want to reflect on that part where you say, be careful what you take in.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Like
when you're hearing stories like this exist.
Totally. I mean, and we're talking about American media, and everybody will just use the disclaimer like, oh yeah, well that's America. It's like, yeah, you really think that we're any different? If anything, we're more like
how we conduct ourselves.
Totally. I shouldn't say that, but that could be a bit of a stretch. But I would say that the general skepticism of the public is a lot higher in the UK than it is, for example, in America. So therefore, like, our media is probably a bit more like sneaky about it, but
mischievous
indeed. Yes.
Whereas American can be quite out in the open about it.
They're pretty blatant. Like, it's like
blunt brute force.
Totally. As a person who has a healthy level of skepticism, I would say about this, you watch American media adverts, everything, and it's like, people watch this, like, this is insane,
in
like,
your face,
really in your face.
Did you ever used to watch the Super Bowls?
No.
Me and my mate stayed up for it. Just think it's hilarious. I don't really know the rules still. I've watched most of them.
Yeah.
But the halftime adverts are just here, like brain.
Yeah.
He's just diving in, jabbing.
Yeah, but it's dark. It's dark, and I think that when you're be very careful of what you're normalized to or desensitized to, because.
Did you watch that documentary, Hypernormalization?
Yeah. I'm
Adam
really
Curtis.
happy that you know what that is.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
Adam, like the recent thing, the latest documentary that he's done. Have you seen that?
What's it called?
It's called. It's like a 6-part series.
I did, yeah. Oh, my friend another podcast called Series the Theories, and my friend was like, "You've got to watch it." And again, I just switched it on, but it was baby was quite young,
totally.
And I was just struggling to. I want to watch things like that. Do you know what I mean? I want to be in on it, and you can't sort of flippantly watch. So
you can't.
I put it aside and meant to watch that.
I feel like there's certain things that Adam Curtis has put forward, especially about current events, which I take with a pinch of salt, because you've got to remember that this guy works for the BBC and has done for most of his life. Okay. And I don't trust the BBC. The British Brainwashing Corporation. So like, but then hypernormalization and Century of the Self, they changed my life. So I can't knock him for that. That like, if anybody hasn't heard of Century of the Self or hypernormalization, it's a 3-hour, each of them 3-hour documentary. I urge you to watch it. Because
taking a journey with it.
If you watch Century of the Self, you will realise that nothing is what you thought it was. Edward Bernays, who was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, was essentially the grandfather of public relations and propaganda, and the godfather of modern marketing. And the whole point was to use Sigmund Freud's concepts of human psychology and hidden secret desires that weren't acted upon, and to tap into those and build associations to products in order to influence behavior.
Sort of our primal and instinctive natures.
Yeah, and people don't understand that the reason that was done is because during the Great Depression, there was a point where the main problem was, how do we get people to buy more stuff?
Sex.
Yeah, basically. And they were like, all right, so we made cars really well. Everybody's got a car. We made great toasters. Everybody's got a toaster. Now we have this, and they've made that. So, and then the businesses that have made them is like, right, we've sold all these things to the people who can get them. And now our market's going down. Like we're plummeting basically. And they were like, how can we make people want more stuff?
What's the sort of the precipice of a point where utility was served, everything needed was made, and it was gained,
and the public consciousness just wanted to live their life. And how do you get them to buy stuff that they don't need? You make them feel like their life would be better if they had such things,
and then compare to one another, and then feel inferior and superior.
And if you watch the first adverts from like the 1930s, 1940s, and you watch these adverts, like, you know, with our modern awareness, you see right through it. And people think that, oh yeah, dude, that was like 100 years ago. It's like you like our entire society is built upon that. The whole concept of perpetual profit is built upon that. Like every single thing about, like everywhere you look, adverts, everything you look is trying to influence your brain to think a certain way. Don't let it in. It's there to influence the way that you think and perceive reality. Like this has all been, it's so standard practice in all of these industries that they don't even see anything wrong with it anymore. It's totally normal to be like, how can we influence the public to buy our products more? And we're not tapping into this market. How can we? That's just standard business play.
These are conversations that if you wanted, like me and you now, our business to thrive, they're kind of normal conversations to have, aren't they? Like we would have that, but to have it on a grand scale and to force it upon people and then indoctrinate people through it, I mean, it's brilliantly conducted, really well done, but it's criminal in its essence.
I mean, look at what's going on right now.
We have to go back there.
I've got to put my hands up and be like, you're pro.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's so well crafted.
It's just refined, bro. Like it's had like 100 years of refinement. I mean, you know, the whole concept of like centralized banking is a scam. The whole way of manipulating interest rates.
Define scam again?
A fraudulent or deceptive act. And I mean,
trickery.
It's the biggest scam ever. Like centralized banking. Like you know, I saw this quote recently where it was like, oh yeah, if you had a time machine, you go back and you speak to your grandmother who's like washing clothes and whatever in the garden, and you'd be like, oh right, so you just have this like house and whatever, and it's like, and it's like, oh yeah, what do you do in the future? It's like, oh yeah, both me, my husband, and we both have jobs. It's like, oh, you must have a huge house. It's like, I rent a 2-bedroom apartment.
I just borrow it.
I just borrow it. Like I've got nothing. So there has to be a perfect balance between permitted freedom, acceptable like professions in a meritocracy, and keeping people in balance with essentially perpetual slavery. You know,
is this what Kanye West was trying to explain?
Oh god,
did you hear when he got absolutely slated?
No.
Again, it was in the Black Lives Matter sort of movement area.
Okay, yeah.
But I think he was explaining how people were allowing to be slaves and so on. But
I think I did hear that.
Again, a lot of things get taken out of context, and to actually unravel what it is in somebody's mind, people don't really want to go on that path. They don't really want to go on that journey of what he was trying to say, or, you know, let them dissect it. They want to just have an easy to say statement, have something that people can get angry at, and then throw that out at people. And I feel that's a lot of the time
if I was
doing.
If I was to come out and say, yes, there's slavery, but the main enslavement is inside your mind, I would get like at least 2 people that would be like, what are you like downplaying slavery? No, I'm saying that do you see what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
Like so everything that you say, someone will take it out of context.
Perfectly in this this conversation that we've had now on this bus, what you just said then is really profound and really powerful. And it's not just downplaying, because we haven't really spoke about slavery.
No.
And, you know, that's another really key piece of content is everything's contextual. We need to speak not in generalized terms and then just get angry at this one thing.
Yeah, this topic is the most easy way to get cancelled.
We have to speak in constant levels and layers of context, don't we?
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
I'm out.
You're pulling the parachute. Like, I mean,
I've really enjoyed this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been great, man. I mean, that particular topic though is obviously one that's very in the public consciousness right now. It's a very hard one to like navigate because there's so many different elements at play. But I would just say that, right? So you're hating on people that are white for slavery, instead of hating on the people who are keeping like billions of people on minimum wage, which is true slavery.
I think there's been
slavery still exists. It's just
a lot of smoke screening.
Yeah,
I think there's been a lot of clever play to keep taking people down different lines that they want them to go down, while they put in different rules and agendas to go under the mix. In my understanding, that's what I've seen, because the stuff and the shit and the context that I've seen on social media platforms is just, you all see, from my perspective, people had been sold to a really easy phatic piece of language that then, like, even my sister and my dad, who I absolutely love, I'm sat there at a dinner table one time and it's this all lives, black lives, which matter sort of, again, I'll say the word rhetoric, that they're fighting over. I'm like, guys, there's a really big important issue at hand, not even the corona thing, but the way we're conversating with each other is being overlooked just because of these two ideas you've been sold by a media construct.
Well, that's what hypernormalization is all about.
I feel that documentary, this whole podcast today, is inside of that documentary in some way.
If anybody's gonna take a recommendation from me to go and watch something, apart from don't watch certain things, it would be watch Hypernormalization and Century of the Self.
We found our route.
The thing is, right, the way that people are controlled is so easy, because people think that, like, oh, there's like a mastermind who's doing all this stuff, and like it's not even that complex. Like, people will do all of the footwork for you. You just have to set the parameters of the discussion. If there's adversity to the power structure, create an opposing force and give it traction, and then encourage limited debate without straying towards something that might be controversial, something that might get you cancelled, but keep the discussion within these parameters and encourage it lively, and then rapp up both sides, and it will never get solved, ever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I'm somebody that really likes to ask questions, really likes to think just for myself. I think that's one of the most important tools that we're not being taught in schools, getting into rap now. But to learn to be an independent thinker and learn to think for yourself. And I've always prided myself on doing that. But then people that have prided me on for doing that still want you to fit into a certain parameter. So then when you start to go out here or over there, you can be questioned for it, and then make you question yourself then. I felt it inside me. So having these talks today, having certain talks, there is a neurosis there. There is a bit of a worry, but I'm somebody that really enjoys running at that hurdle. Because if you feel an uncomfortability in it, it's very down to you how you take that. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And just to respond to something that you said, like, I don't think that school is supposed to make you into an independent thinker. No. I think it's supposed to do completely the opposite.
Well, supposed to.
Didn't work for everybody.
So definitely, it's objective isn't to do that, but it's, for me, if I wanted my daughter going to a place, that's what I'd want it to be pursuing.
I mean, what is a curriculum? Who writes a curriculum? Why are they writing it to be that certain way? Why are people not ask these questions? Because you're not encouraged to ask those questions. If you ask those questions, you would start questioning a lot more, and like that's just, how is that good for an established power structure if you're like questioning everything? The whole thing starts to fall apart, basically.
Completely.
So, you know, don't take things for face value. Like, if people want to get their data, don't just listen to somebody who they're telling you on TV is an expert who claims to just be like, oh, you've got to do the right thing. Let's cue the sad music. Oh, you're playing on your little heartstrings, right? Making you feel like you're supposed to do a certain thing a certain way. Like, people have died from this. People have died. You know, well, you know, where's the good news? Where's the good news that BBC have been putting out for the last year? Like, if they really care about your well-being, why are they trying to make you scared all the time? If they really care about your well-being, why aren't they telling you to, like, be healthy, eat better, like, do more exercise? If school is so good for you, why are they not teaching you how to, like, develop on and question things more and, like, be healthy?
I've got a little man in my mind going, go, Jack, go! I love it. I really do.
But it's just, the thing is, right, the reason why I can get frustrated with people sometimes is because when you see that element of it, it all becomes really obvious. Like, it's not like everything that's going on right now, right? You won't have to dig that far to think, like, hang on a second, there's at least something that doesn't add up. Even if you a person that watches the BBC, listens to the BBC Radio 1 like every single day, like, I mean, you really don't have any questions about what they're saying. Like, you haven't questioned any of it. And I think that's really sad. I mean, it says more volumes about the hearer than it does about the person that's, like, speaking. And
at this very start of this podcast, you were an optimist.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now, for starts?
No, I am. I mean, you know, when you get into that, it's like, wow, oh god, like, the odds are against us. But, you know, at the end of the day, bro, like, you know, I've been through the pessimism side of this, where I'd be like, we're all doomed. We're going to be in gulags in 10 years. And I've come out of the other side of that because I've noticed that in the last month or 2 months, like, a corner has been turned. Where there's a lot of people, like, look at that protest that happened in London. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did.
Maybe, like, hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
I was there for one of them, like, hundreds of thousands of people. And, like, what you've got to understand is, like, there's a lot of people that are just on the fence. Like, they might think that there's something wrong, but they won't say anything because they don't want the condemnation or the kind of ostracization that might come with that, or the drama that might come with that. Or there's a lot of people who are thinking that maybe they shouldn't be forcing these things on people, but they don't want to speak out.
Fingers crossed they're listening to this now.
Yeah, me too. Like, let's hope, right? If you don't get demonetized too much. And like, if they are in that situation, right, just remember that you're not seeing all the people that are standing up against this. Like, if you're on the fence, there's a lot of people who are very, very, like, they will never, like, lay down for this. Like, they would take this to the grave.
Would you not consider doing your own podcast?
I ain't got time.
I got it. Because I enjoy how you put the information out, how you come across, how you filter the information and everything with it. So I'd love to see that if you'd ever be open to doing that.
I like being guests on podcasts.
Host a space for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily come on again. Like,
oh, dude,
let's wait till another month.
I've got some podcasts for you, mate. Yeah, this one again, definitely. And then I do another one called Series of Theories, where we ask the big questions. Some have been very more fan fiction-y.
Okay,
but I know you can come on and ruffle some feathers.
Yeah. I've got an imagination.
We just need a big question out of you. We'll think of it after this. We'll think of a big question. What are some of the other? Have we lost the war on drugs? We've done.
I mean, we've been losing the war on drugs since it started.
Don't worry. We smashed that one, mate. We smashed that one. But yeah, I'll definitely bring you on that. I'll do it with Project Zeus. They're a wicked band. You'd love them. Are you around on the 19th of this month?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to be going anywhere until end of July now.
Oh, dude, if you fancy it, your partner, anyone you want, we're doing a really cool event on here, the busking session.
Okay.
Plugging in my own podcast.
That'd be great, yeah.
But it'd be great if you come down.
If you're getting people here, like, hanging
on,
about.
actually.
Oh, really, yeah?
Yeah, Shruzik, Project Zeus, like garage and stuff, and then Local Healers, really cool hip-hop band on it at the minute. So if you're up for it, man, camp out.
Yeah, definitely.
Good people together, good vibes, and great conversation.
Yeah. We'll bring the Jeep set up and we've got a rooftop tent.
Oh, dude, that'd be I'd love to collaborate more with you.
Yeah,
You're one of them people that I know I'm gonna always have to lose at some point.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how to describe it. Like I'm a bit like, I mean, especially now, like you know, to get personal in a way, like a lot of the way that people have been with me in the last year, and you know, like to go back, like just to briefly go back to the COVID stuff, like I was talking about ivermectin and vitamin D and hydroxychloroquine, like and quinine derivative drugs, like back in like June.
Is that what they use in like carp tanks? I heard.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so.
It's like it's anti-lichen. It can get rid of like certain funguses and stuff. So that could be it. Yeah. And I was talking about this stuff and saying to people, like, there's a lot of studies, data behind this. Like, if somebody gets sick, like, this is the way to help them. Don't put them into the hospital. Like, that's the worst thing. They're going to pump you full of like random drugs. Like, and so get this stuff and take care of your family. And people are like, oh, you're crazy, bro.
Yeah, dude.
And like now it's in the public sphere that like this is all a fact.
Is it Sharp? Brendan Sharp. Have you heard of him?
Brendan Schwab.
Sharp. He's a hard name to say, but he's ex-MMA fighter, but now comedian. He's been on Rogan's a lot, but I listened to him on Theo Von's, and Theo Von's like this really
funny.
He's hilarious. And they're on it together. And he got COVID or symptoms of COVID, went into the doctors, and the doctor came to him and just goes, we've got this, the word I can't pronounce, but the hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, we've got this, we believe it works, I believe it works, it's been studied on highly, but it just depends on your political spectrum and where you fall on the political spectrum. And Brandon's just like, I don't give a fuck about politics. I just want what works. Just hit me. I feel shit, dude. Fix me with what works. But that shows how politicized certain things are. If you've got a doctor coming in and saying it depends where you fall in the political spectrum, it's just like, why are we taking that into consideration? Why aren't we just doing what works?
How are you going to get all of this funding for experimental vaccine research and making new experimental drugs that are way more expensive when people are aware that there's something that's readily available and super cheap, which will just do the job? Like, the whole thing is part and parcel of convincing people that this is the only way out. They're holding you hostage. They're holding you hostage, and the ransom is, take this experimental shot.
Well, dude, honestly, I want to do this forever. You're definitely
we ran like 2 hours,
But we are literally doing the world's longest podcast, and I love that, and I know we could, but I've got to edit it.
I know, fair.
But honestly, dude,
we could just keep going for hours. So
for you, for what you're talking about, for your work, and we've not even spoke about your creativity. Can you just tell people where they can find you and what's coming up?
What with artwork wise?
And if they enjoyed what you say, if you're open to have people come and speak to you and say, listen, man, I enjoyed what you spoke about. Can you help me in this way of thinking or this information? Like, where can they get to you?
Like, if you think
without
that I'm
seeing dick pics and whatnot. Unless you want some.
No, it's all right. So if you want to come and chat to me, like, that's totally cool. Like, if you want to come and tell me that I'm a nutter and me to prove you wrong, then more than welcome.
Love that.
So, like, you know, my website is torusenergyart.com.
Seriously, like, so worth a visit.
Thanks,
a visit. Incredible.
My Instagram is the Torus Energy. Like, I haven't been doing as much posting recently because I've actually just been like doing other stuff, and like I've been working in woodwork quite a lot recently.
Brilliant.
I'm not really sharing that there. I'm not really showing that too much just because I just kind of fallen out of love with social media a little bit.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you, man.
But you know, you'll go there and you'll see my stuff, and yeah, you'll probably enjoy it, like, or maybe not, but either way, like,
it's hard to be one of those that even if they don't like you as a person, you got to respect the art. You go and see that and you go, yeah, this guy knows something at least.
It's funny, we haven't even spoken about art at all,
dude. Yeah, do you want to come back and do a full art podcast?
Can do, yeah.
We could have somebody on with us. We can do anything with this.
Yeah,
I just wanted an open platform, man, where I get to speak to cool people about cool shit. And again, I've had people on thinking the other way of line of thinking, and even in that I've learnt a lot. I've listened to people. My friend was working in one of the vaccine centres, but I listened again with the empathy in my heart, and we actually kept to a bit of a conundrum part of the conversation where we didn't go on a battle, but it was just a discussion. And it was going a bit sketchy.
It got a bit abrasive.
Yeah, but good, but healthy.
Yeah,
it was healthy all the way. But how he spoke about the people he's working with and just seeing the hope in their eyes, like older people who have absolutely...
Hopium.
Won't leave the house at the minute, and they're coming in, they're meeting them, and they're managing to go out now. I've listened to it in a compassionate side of my nature, and I understand where he's coming from, but it just doesn't necessarily fit my line of thinking, my psyche. Where you've gone with this today, I've learned a hell of a lot from it, and also it does fit a great part of my nature. It fills a bigger part of my void that I don't get to talk about a lot. I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that I can give something.
I thank you on that. And I'll wrap it up. So guys, again, thank you for being a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus sessions. Me and Jack are going to leave you on this. Don't forget to be nice to one another, you beautiful buggers. See you later. Cheers for coming on, Jack. Really appreciate it, man.